and letters. Actually, although it's a slow process, you do piece together, what's been going on. And you don't wait, for 9/11, September 11th tragedy to come along, or, a particular assassination like of JFK or anything to get you started. And because you can also be fooled by that, to thinking that it's sort of an updated thing. The quote that you read there, and even G. Edward Griffin's fantastic quote about, Benedict Arnold and the various other conspiracies when America, founding fathers, that period. The great researchers know it's a very, very old thing. And in my work, of course, I track it back to Atlantis. I track it back to the ancient Atonists. And you see, the other thing that's implied in that statement is that the Duke there is trying to distinguish for us between certain positive lodges that didn't have a negative or dark agenda to control the world. They may have been elitist, they may have been imperialistic in their own way, but we have to understand that certain monarchies, certain elite groups still had the welfare of mankind in mind. This is demonstrably provable. It's absolutely the fact, and we have to accept that. And the same thing goes for secret societies. I never push it too far, but I always do mention that certain even lodges and secret societies, especially in Germany and Austro-Hungary, you see, and perhaps other places as well, were positive, with a small p. They had the welfare of the white race in mind. They were very aware of where the weaknesses were and where danger lay. You see, this kind of thing. And they also then knew, around about this time, the 1780s, 1790s, they understood that there was enormous, there was barbarians at the gate. And this ties into, the coming of William of Orange, the House of Hanover, which you and I will do podcasts on this Hanoverian group and unpack who they really were. Ties in greatly to what Ralph Ellis is talking about, but I've got my own slant on it. You see, so there's a lot of changes, and there was also deep rivalries. So this quote, one quote, talks about the fact that good lodges might have had to close or be circumvented, sabotaged, subverted, and also that there was internecine conflicts. I mentioned this throughout my work, and even if you're even coming in from a Dan Brown level, well, then you still have that internecine rivalry, even in his story, right, which is faction, part fact, part fiction. Don't you have the controversy between the Order of Zion, right, the Priory of Zion, and the Orthodox papacy or Opus Dei, you see? So everywhere you turn, when you take the lid off the secret societies, you find rivalries. And those absolutely have to be factored in, to the whole question. It doesn't mean you have to take a side, but you just need to know that this has indeed been going on. And it's been raging beneath the surface. And so, it's just a fact that the open-minded person, needs to be conscious of. Because you see, at the end of the day, right, the people that I think are the best researchers into this conspiracy movement, in the past and especially now, have to be from a non-partisan platform. It's just my personal opinion and also advice. That you will do a lot better to not be coming from a partisan platform. And the reason is simple, and that is in order to get an insight into the vast interconnecting ancient web. It's like the Matrix. In order for you to get a handle on its complexity, to find your way out of it, and also to prevent yourself strangling yourself in those webs in your attempts to be free, which is something I've made clear in my work a lot, you have to see that edifice from many different perspectives. You have to be of a certain mind that is even rare in the world today, because they've ironed it out of us. They've schooled it out of us. So when you jump into the conspiracy movement as a conspiracy researcher, first of all, you've got to realize you're doing holy work. And what that means is that this has meaning for your spirit, spiritual evolution, not just some intellectual pastime or frivolous pursuit, right? Or to impress your mates or something with some esoteric sounding knowledge. First of all, they won't be impressed. So it's holy work. It involves all of your life, right? All of your life is going to matter now. It's going to come to bear. And also the reason for the perspective is because it's a mighty contradictory thing. It's smoke and mirrors. And not everybody can go forward. In fact, the vast majority of people I always know will never go forward. That's why they got plenty of time to troll you and plenty of time to throw mud, in your way, because that all they're showing me by doing that, when you get all that backlashing, is they're the ones who run for 5 minutes. Just hold your breath a bit and they'll be gone. because this is like taking on a volcano. You know, it's an incredible edifice, and small minds, limited minds, partisan minds can't ever get their minds around it. And so my message is always to have that open mind. But no matter what, even since 9/11, since there's been a lot of people turning on to this subject, thanks to people, you know, like Alex Jones and others, right? Even so, the vast majority of the world, the people walking around you and going to the malls and all, they're not involved in any holy work. They don't care. They're never going to accept, even with all the movies that have been whistleblowing it, and with all the new media and the internet, they still never going to believe in a global conspiracy. No matter what way you frame it to them, it's not going to happen. You know, at the very most, you might get a brief conversation about it, and then they'll change the subject, you know, as soon as you start getting deep. Because this is very threatening, you know, and it's partly because it is holy work, that when you confront completely bad, crazy people with it, they want to block you because you're coming across as an intellectually superior and morally superior person. And also there's programming involved, as we should know, right? But the main thing, the good thing though, on the positive side, even though there's still millions of people who would never accept it and don't accept it, is that we will now win the arguments against anyone who tries to rebut us, right? A lot of time has gone by now, and basically, if you're erudite and been paying attention, especially to my work, you will come out a winner when you do, in fact, have to, you know, engage, because the scoffers right now don't have any teeth. There's been so many things in the world that have been happening that just underline the fact that there's a conspiracy. You know, like all the politicians and the references to a global new world order and things like that, or the quotes like you just read. We made them available to you. So it's not as easy for a refuter and for a scoffer to now deny and sneer as much as it might have been 20 years ago. You know, we will win the arguments against any disbeliever or, say, mainstream lay person. Big Pharma has betrayed itself, its colors, right? The corporate control is so bloody obvious that you'd have to be, you know, your brain would have to be literally the size of a walnut not to get it. The surveillance society, how can anybody deny it? Big Brother is more conspicuous than he's ever been. So we need to mention that as well. Later in a minute, we'll get into, you know, things to do with the steering committee of the conspiracy, the real navigators. What has something been going on there out of eye shot, you know, out of earshot? We can talk about that in a minute, but just addressing the overview. And then again, for the hardened conspiracy theorist, the person who doesn't care what the rest of the world is saying, he realizes this is vital to his development, then my only advice is the same as been from the start. Do it for love. Philosophy is the love of wisdom. And in many ways, studying this research material, you know, the alternative research material, is also an act of love. Don't do it out of paranoia. Don't do it out of fear. Don't let those negative emotions, you see, violate you, because that's part of their firewall. That's part of their protection to get you to back off. You know, be one of those people who has understood that you've not just been sold a lie, but you've bought a lie. You know, understand that, and then say, yeah, well, the contract's over. You're not gonna have my will anymore. You know, because as I said before, there's three kinds of people. There's those who just don't want to know. There's those people who want to know about the mysteries, but are not willing to give too much in the way of sacrifice. And then there's the third category, and they're the only ones that matter, which is those people who do want to know the secrets and are willing to do whatever it takes to find, you know, the knowledge. So that category is always going to be less demographically. They're the ones I'm interested in. They're the ones that I deal with. Well, the ones who, as I said, in Architects of Control, have zero tolerance for the lie. You know, they don't want to live in that web anymore, and they're a bit wary of other approaches to get out of it, because they realize that it often leads you to be strangled more in the webs of deceit, because you've got some very, very cunning architects of control up there, and to undo them and to outwit them isn't as easy as a lot of people in this movement actually think. So that's key too, you know. But do it with love, do it with the mind of a beginner, do it with this multi-perspective thing where you can move around it, like I do in my work, and see the exact same thing from many different perspectives. That is absolutely key.